Good morning, divine beloveds. Peace, well-being, prosperity, and the favor of spirit be to you and your house. I'm Carol, and welcome to the Summer Sunday Cafe. The God in you is perfect. Therefore, all is as it should be. I invite you to stick around about 5 or 10 minutes after the talk to meet and greet each other, and I'd love to hear your questions and comments. The subject of the talk is broken and beautiful. Broken and beautiful. And let me just point out a slight difference in what I'm saying. You've heard broken but beautiful, or beautiful but broken, but I'm not using the word but. I'm using and. Broken and beautiful. So if you were able to see the meditation video, you saw a beautiful clay vase whose origin is Belize. This vase caught my attention in a little quaint shop that I go to when I want to get something different for my meditation space, my puja table, and I'm now learning the value and the beauty of an ancestor table. So I go into little quaint shops and get something different to put on in those places. And as soon as I walked down one of the aisles, this vase caught my attention from across the room. It was so beautiful. And I thought, this is nice. And I know exactly, absolutely exactly where I want it to go and what I want to put in it. And at the same time, the vase was saying, Carol, I want to go home with you. So it was a slam dunk. We were going home. Lady wrapped it up, brought it in the house. I saged it and just put it aside until I got the plants that I wanted. I've had the vase for about a year, and it's just been sitting there waiting for me to get these plants. Now, what's taking me so long with the plants? I can't get the plants where I live, only in Philadelphia. So my husband took a trip to Philadelphia with my daughter, and they were doing some things, and he surprised me with the perfect plants. He knew I was looking for them. The ones he chose were like 1,000% better than the ones that I had imagined. It was like Christmas that day. So the first thing I did was, after I took care of the plants and did what I was supposed to do with them, I got my vase and I turned the water on, and I, made sure everything was clean and get the right amount of water in this thing, and water streamed out from underneath. And I was so shocked. I was thinking the water was coming from someplace else, but it could only have been coming from the vase. I turned it over, and I had never taken the label off. I just left it there. And I noticed what was happening is the vase was completely broken in half. And the label was the only thing keeping those two halves together. When you go to these little quaint shops, you got to know how to shop. You got to look at everything. You get what you get. So it was no point in arguing. There's no point in taking it back, because it's not like they have another to replace it. This is it. So I was like, what am I going to do with this now? It's damaged. So I dried it carefully. It was such a fine hairline crack. It did not detract from the beauty of the vase. So I thought, okay, well, I put a little piece of tape on the bottom so I would always know where the hairline crack started. And one day I'm going to get creative and skilled with a glue gun or something and go in and seal up the crack or do whatever I'm supposed to do. But in the meantime, I just wanted to put the vase back where it was. So I did that. And I thought, it's beautiful on its own, but it was supposed to hold my plants. And immediately I thought, repurpose it. It is still beautiful. It is broken. It's beautiful. It's beautiful and broken. Repurpose it. So I have in my meditation room a whole lot of incense, which is a part of yours, I'm sure, as well. And I put the incense, the long stick ones, in this vase. And it's so perfect. It's like that's what it was intended to be in the first place. No water required. It's just sitting there, beautiful as it was before, with the incense. Like that's where the incense belongs. So, what's the point of this whole thing? The point is, many of us are broken. In fact, all of us are broken in some way. But we focus on our brokenness. We focus on the imperfection, and we don't see the beauty. Or if we ever saw any beauty in ourselves, now we see the broken place and we focus on the broken place, and suddenly we don't see the beauty anymore. And people are not so willing to come along and tell you how beautiful you are in spite of everything, because everybody's dealing with their own stuff. They're dealing with their own cracks and brokenness. But I'm talking about you, the beautiful clay vase, the beautiful instrument that you are. You got a crack, a chip, some imperfection. But guess what? You're looking at the brokenness, you're looking at the flaw, and totally overlooking the beauty of your wholeness. And just like I repurposed the vase, we need to repurpose ourselves. We grow up with hopes and dreams and things that we want to do and things that we want to be when we grow up, and we have dreams about our whole life. And then we find out that either we don't have the skills, or something happened and we couldn't go to school to get the skills that we need, or it just didn't turn out the way it was supposed to turn out, or you just can't figure out how to make it happen. And so the first thing we do is turn on ourselves to look at what is wrong, because there's nothing wrong with the dream. The dream is perfect. It must be me. There was nothing wrong with the design of the vase that I bought. It is exactly as it was intended to be by the person that created it and painted it, and everything was perfect, but the crack was never intended. But the crack doesn't detract from its beauty. The same with you and I. If we could manage to take our eyes off of the crack, the chip, the broken place in our life, and kind of stand back and look at what we are, maybe we are not what we intended to be. Repurpose, decide something else. My mother bought me a piano when I was 8 years old. So I tinker around with the keyboard every couple of years. I used to have dreams of being a musician, but that is not what I was created to be. So whenever I go back to trying to play music and rekindle the dream of being a musician, I hit a roadblock, because there are certain skill levels that I did not develop for a whole myriad of reasons. But the point is, at this point in my life, not going to happen. And you know what? It wasn't intended to happen. I am now who I was intended to be. Just like that vase that I bought, it is right now sitting in my worship space, looking exactly the way the one who created it and fashioned it intended for it to be. I was the one who had to come along and redefine its purpose. So in our lives, when we stand back and look at the total picture, the beauty of who we are, the perfection of who we are, get your mind off the crack, okay? Don't worry about the chip, the broken place. Don't worry about that. Matter of fact, I told you I put a little piece of tape so I would remember where the hairline starts. Well, that's just so I could fix it. But actually, why do you want to keep going back to the place that you know is broken? It was broken and it's still broken. It was broken the last time you checked it. It's still broken. The same thing with us. We have areas of our lives that are not as strong as other areas. You'll remember back in the day, and maybe not even back in the day, people would say, okay, so we're going to work on our weaknesses and try to, strengthen our weaknesses. Well, the new thought is, no, we're not. We're weak in this area. That's not your area of focus. Don't waste your time trying to strengthen what you don't have. Look at what you do have. Look at the area of perfection, of excellence, of skill, that area that you excel in, and do that. Can you imagine wasting your whole life trying to fix a broken piece? Even when you fix it, it's never going to be perfect. Oh yeah, I'm going to get a hot glue gun and I'm going to carefully go inside the crack and I'm going to seal the crack. But the crack will still be there. It will never be perfect. So part of me is saying, why waste your time? Use the vase for the beauty that it brings right now. It's not going to hold your plants, but it does hold your incense. And that is absolutely perfect. I would have never thought of that. Matter of fact, I was looking for something to hold the incense and never knew I always had it. Do the same thing with you. Get in that mirror, okay? This week. Matter of fact, not this week. Do it today. When you leave the cafe, do it today because a lot of things are going to come up this week. Look at yourself, your perfect self, not your flaws, not your imperfections. Look at the beauty of who you are and see where you fit in, what you can do that you may have missed all along. Okay, so you say, I'm not going to be able to see that. Listen, stand there, ask Spirit to reveal it to you so that you can see it. And so maybe you don't see it right away. Trust the process. Spirit will reveal to you your flawless beauty, where you fit in so perfectly that nobody will look for the crack. My husband asked me, let me see the vase that has the crack in it. Well, I know him. He wasn't interested in no crack. He wanted to see the vase so he could know what to go out and find. He wanted to replace it. I know how he is. He knew I wasn't happy. He was going to see it, go out and find it and bring it back. So I showed him the crack and he said, you can barely see it. Now, I don't know in his mind whether he's still going to try to find the vase again without the crack. That's fine. My point is this. He did say, wow, it really is pretty just the way it is. You can't see the crack. Why don't you do that with you? Don't look for the crack. Look for what is already there, perfectly formed, fearfully and wonderfully made. God breathed the breath of life, the Ruach breath, Pneuma breath, God's own breath into us, not into a broken, flawed vessel, but into a vessel perfectly formed for its purpose. Unmute your mics. I'd like to know what you think about broken and beautiful.
We still look good.
We still look good. Okay. Yeah, we still look good. I look good with these earphones on. You should have seen the other ones. I had the big ones on. I said, that's not cool.
You're gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
I love that message. And like Abraham Hicks says, sometimes if we just focus on what's working for us, all other things fall into place.
Yeah. Hard to do, isn't it?
Yes, very difficult.
Yes, you referenced one of my favorite teacher, Abraham. That's, if you're listening to Abraham, you're on a good street.
Thanks.
I wish you to have a blessed and marvelous and wonderful day. And I'll see you at Tuesday Talk this week. I'll see you in the spirit next time.